Welcome to Grid. This month's topic is how to find deals in terms of, prospecting, networking, and marketing, right? So just so you guys know, in terms of what Grid is a global real estate community built for investors by investors. We're not gurus. We're just a group of real people doing real deals. Uh, I am the Grid chapter leader for Grid DELCO. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of grids at this point. Our mission is to connect, learn from, and collaborate with like-minded people interested in building wealth and creating impact through real estate. We welcome investors of all experience levels. Everyone should be a lifelong learner and, believe everyone has the value, or we believe everyone has value to share. So it doesn't matter if you haven't done a deal before or if you've done 700, it doesn't matter, right? Like we want everyone learning as much as possible about real estate. Uh, our vision is to impact millions around the world through advocating financial and entrepreneurial literacy. There's over 1,000 communities, 2,000 leaders, etc. Who am I? I'm William Holder. I run the William Holder Realty Team and Remax Classic. I run this group because I'm trying to meet like-minded investors, people who want to get into the investing space, be good real estate investors, provide great housing whilst building financial freedom through real estate. And I want to clarify, I don't think financial freedom means quitting your job. I just think it means you don't have to go to work if you don't want to, right? Take a few weeks off and then maybe go back to a different job. Now, could you get to that point? Sure. But I'm very realistic with how long things take. What I look to do to accomplish with this group, one, help you all learn how to invest. Two, hopefully at some point, help you invest or do deals with you. And three, grow, right? There's been investors that came to the first one that, I'm doing deals with now. So like, if we get to know each other, we like each other, we trust each other, we can build a cohesive relationship and we find a deal that works for us. To me, that's great. And that's how I've been able to build my portfolio faster is by partnering with like-minded people. You can connect with me either through Will at WilliamHolderRealty.com or my website, WilliamHolderRealty.com, or my cell phone, 610-657-6215, or I'm on Instagram, WilliamHolderRealty.com, or Will Holder Builds Businesses. So I'll let you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with you, Jurish.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me? Everybody?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Girish Jain. I live in Media, Pennsylvania. I did my first session online, and then I was there like two in-person sessions. So I'm a realtor around the Chester, Delaware County. We did purchase our first home. This Monday we closed on our first property, thanks to this team. So I learned a lot during this 3 sessions. And my goal is to obviously grow my portfolio and help each other in this group, and then expand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Velda?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, I'm a slightly newer investor, have an older property, but I'm always interested in real estate. Um, I would like to eventually have long-term wealth or long-term, yeah, for my family. That would be what I would be interested in.
Awesome. No, you can talk. They can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. That's good.
My name is Chris. First name months ago. To rehab the top unit, hoping to get it built, and hopefully, move on to the next one.
Nice. Okay. A little bit to get out of the way beforehand. I am recording this and it does go on our social media. Also, it's free advice. Don't sue me. Okay. So I'm trying to share as much as I can with you for free. If you learn something great, if you try to implement something and it doesn't work out for you, Not Will's problem. No, I'm just kidding. It'll probably become my problem, but I don't, don't sue me. All right, next, again, I am filming this for our social media, so your voice is heard, etc. Just so you know, by being on here, you're allowing us to do that. All right, so let's set the stage. If you're a real estate investor or a full-time real estate agent, you're in a sales and marketing business, right? And this even goes at the base level of being a real estate investor, right? Really good real estate investors learn how to put themselves out there. So you should be putting on your social media, hey, I'm interested in buying properties if anyone's ever interested. You should be going to meetups, like this or others, with people that have deals. You should be communicating with wholesalers. We're going to get into all of that, but you have to understand that to find the best deals as an investor, they're generally off market when you're talking about residential properties. Larger mixed-use commercial or apartment buildings, they tend to have more properties on the market or more deals on the market, but it doesn't mean you're not still networking and marketing, right? A lot of the commercial real estate agents that handle apartment buildings like to work their deals in-house. They like to sell them as word of mouth. So part of sales and marketing is marketing with other agents, right? So whether you want to wholesale a home, fix and flip a property, or purchase a rental, nothing happens until you get a lead, which is anything. It's you posting on Facebook that you're looking to buy a house and someone saying, hey, my aunt has a house to sell. It's you running an ad and someone clicking on the link. It's you sending out 1,000 mailers and someone calling you back. These are leads, right? For you to find a property. A lead could be as simple as you driving by a property and seeing that it's overgrown and making a note of the address and seeing if you can find out who that owner is. You do a skip trace, right? That's a lead. And once you get that lead into your system, you have to understand how prospecting, networking, and marketing works. It's important that you are purposeful. Okay. You can waste a lot of valuable time and money if you don't have a great plan or model to copy and implement. There's plenty of free information out there. I'm a big advocate of free information. That's why this is free. That's why there's so much free stuff. I've learned everything I've learned, and I haven't spent a dime on real estate seminars or any of the guru stuff that they make you pay 20 grand to go to. Not one dime. It's all been free. It's all been through YouTube, podcasts, word of mouth. I pay for some books, they're like $10 ebooks, but nothing significant in terms of what it's cost for me to learn what I've learned. So don't waste time, don't waste money, come up with a plan, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's plans out there for you. The goal is to create predictable opportunities and revenue by becoming the dominant force in any vertical you decide to go after. We call this approach zone, and it's the ultimate sales and marketing system designed to help you zone it and own it, right? It's like any business. Nike wants to be the dominant force in shoes, right? So you see their ads everywhere. You see their shoes on athletes. You see it everywhere. I'm not saying you have to become Nike, but I am saying that if you're targeting an area and everyone in that area doesn't know that you're an investor in the area, you're missing opportunities. You're not creating a zone. Right? So, Z is for zero in on your target market. I can't stress how important it is to pick a target market, especially when you're beginning, because it makes it much easier to scale and grow, right? I always use the examples of like row home communities within Delaware County, right? Like there's a large section of Fallcroft that are row homes, a large section of Clifton Heights that are row homes. If you choose, let's say you like the Carroll Park section of Philly, right? Choose a section that all of the houses were kind of built around the same time. So once you've evaluated one and you know what it costs to renovate that property, just looking at pictures or walking through another, you can figure out how much it's going to cost you to renovate it because you know those properties so well. Makes it easier. You don't have to bring your contractor to everyone with you because you've already done the homework on a property like this. And generally, most homes in an area were built around the same time, right? If you're in the Swarthmore market, all the houses here are 100 years old, right? You're not running into a whole lot of new construction. If you're in the outskirts of Allentown, Fogelsville, all that's new construction, right? If you're in Westbrook Park, those houses were all built in the 50s, right? And they're all built, those rows are built exactly the same. So understanding your target market will help you zone in on what you're looking to purchase and make it easier for you. So zero in on your target market, research and select. Number two, develop your value proposition. And number three, build your brand. And your brand could be you are a local person in the market that loves to purchase properties for people that are in need of selling a property quickly, right? It's anyone has a, they're in a position that they need to get this property off their chest, call Will, right? That's how you need to look at your brand. You have to become that person for the area. O is for own the mindset or own the mind share for your market, right?
Back here in the U.S. tonight to the economy and the Federal Reserve leading.
So step one, start with prospecting, build through your network, and multiply through marketing. Okay, so your job is to build through your network, and again, that's reaching out to individual homeowners. That's talking to people you see consistently. That's talking to contractors. You're driving around that neighborhood, you see a contractor working. Why aren't you stopping and saying, introducing yourself, asking them, hey, if you ever come across a seller that needs to sell a house, and one of the best deals I ever found, my electrician, who's part of my network, reached out to me and he's like, hey, a guy called me. He's an estate lawyer. He was referred to me. Someone join him in here. He's like, hey, he's an estate lawyer. He was referred to me. He's trying to figure out if he wants to help them fix up this house before they sell it. And when I gave him a quote on getting rid of all the electrical from the knob and tube from the house, he just decided they want to sell it. And he wanted to know if I had anyone that's interested in buying. And I referred him to you because my electrician knows if I get the property, he gets the job, right? And I showed up the Saturday. I called the guy. Showed up there that Saturday. There were other buyers there. I just had a conversation with them and I'm like, what's the number? I'll give me the number you're looking for. He gave me the number. I came in a little bit below after I ran my numbers, but it was still the best number he got. And I got the deal. My electrician got the job. Now, anytime that guy stumbles upon a deal, potentially, he's calling me because he knows if I buy it, he gets the job, right? And, that's building a network. So if you're working with local contractors that kind of dominate an area, the local roofer everyone uses, the local plumber everyone uses, the local HVAC guy, and they hear that someone's looking to sell the property because it's becoming too much for them, they'll refer you, and pay them a finder fee. Even if they're not going to get the job, maybe, they call the roofer and he's like, the roof's fine, but they're like, this house is too much for me. He's probably not going to get the roof off of you now. You'll refer him to other people in the future, but pay him a finder's fee for finding it, right? So own the mind share of your market. Understand that people in your market should know who you are and that they need to refer anyone that contacts them potentially about selling their home, right? Prospecting. This is outbound activity and you are trading time for leads, okay? This is the quote unquote cheap/free way of doing it, right? Prospecting is so also making offers on listed properties. Again, these properties are on the market. You can get an agent to just throw out offers for you, right? Checking the newspapers, Craigslist, Facebook, and local sources for deals and listings. Yeah, I see a lot of good deals on Facebook. I'll see like a wholesaler post, a building in the middle of nowhere that I never heard of before. And I'm like, oh, but that cap rate looks good. I'm going to evaluate it. and I reach out to the wholesaler. Maybe that deal doesn't work, but they'll have more and they know I'm interested, right? Going door to door or calling for sale by owners. For sale by owner is a little bit tougher because for sale by owners are generally going by themselves without an agent because agents told them a price they didn't like and it was too low, right? And they want to ask a price that they shouldn't be asking, right? So usually you're not getting a great deal unless you really wear someone down. If they've just been sitting on the market forever and they want to get rid of it, you provide value. It could also be a really tricky situation, like maybe there's a squatter in there and an agent didn't want to list it for them, so they listed it, and you come in and say, hey, I'll take the squatter and everything, but you got to sell it to me at my price, right? So you could be looking for deals that way. And going door to door, again, I've heard people pay Uber drivers to, like, as they're driving around, make a note of properties and send them a list, and that saves you a lot of time driving because they're already driving, right? And anyone you turn into a deal, you give them a referral fee, right? So that's creating a network, that's prospecting. You could be doing that while you're at your day job because you have other people doing it for you, right? Networking. So this is letting the world know what business you're in and how you can help. Okay. You're in the right place. Attend investor events like this. Tell everyone in your world that you invest in X. You invest in single family properties. You invest in multifamily properties. You invest in apartment complexes. You invest in um, mixed use buildings. If they see anything run down, to let you know. Letting everyone know around you what you invest in, eventually they're going to run into something that they need to share with you, right? Become a connector, add value to others. This is huge. Again, if I'm referring my electricians to my clients, when my clients has a good deal, my electrician is going to send it back to me, right? But you have to remind your electrician or whoever you're referring that this is what you do, and they're not always going to remember. So you do have to, again, keep telling people what you do, right? And then build a dream team. You have to understand that the dream team is important. We'll get into that. Marketing. So this is using money to leverage to deliver a message that gets the phone to ring. All right. This is postcards, door hangers, websites, Google AdWords, direct mail, social media. You need a message that's tailored to your audience or tailored to the audience you are trying to help. So I'm sure you've driven around a neighborhood and you've seen, the We Buy Homes, like signs on telephone poles. You've seen, cash for keys. You've seen all these signs. Those are usually wholesalers, but sometimes they're investors looking for deals. And they're constantly putting up their signs because they're hoping at some point someone's going to raise their hand and say, I have a property for you, or I need help getting out of my property, right? You can run ads targeting a certain area constantly so people are seeing it on their social media. People are seeing it on Google, etc., on all their apps. And when the time comes, they think of you. Now, the marketing costs money, right? This isn't the free method. This is the leverage money to get leads method. So make sure you're intentional about this. Make sure you're following up and retargeting. There's a lot that goes into this, and you don't want to be wasting your money. N is for nurture and grow your database. And this is the part that, again, comes into you're in a sales and marketing business, right? You've done the marketing. You're out there putting out your cards, you're door knocking, you're sending out mailers, you're doing skip traces, you're doing all of that. But if you do all of that and you get these leads and you don't nurture and grow that database, nothing's going to come from it. And this is in every business, but especially in a marketing and sales business, you need to nurture and grow your database. So if you're doing all of these things and you're not retargeting, nurturing, and growing and growing that database, then you're not going to end up actually capitalizing on any of those leads if you don't nurture and grow your database. So incubate your database. Make sure it's in a central place. You can use a CRM, client relationship manager. There's really cheap ones out there. You can get some for $10 a month. You can start using a spreadsheet at first, but eventually it's going to get out of control and you're going to need something to kind of help you automate your follow-up. So I highly recommend the CRM. Create digital content. You can retarget your database. So, and these things sound complicated, and they're really not. Like sites like Facebook and Google make it really easy for you to run ads and retarget, right? You just follow a YouTube video that gives you a step-by-step on how to do it, and you can set it up. Believe me, I've set these up. If I can do it, anybody can do it. They're not that difficult, right? Now you could pay companies to do this stuff for you, but again, you're putting money into it, so you better be intentional, right? Converting the leads. Yes, you can get all the leads in the world you want. You can nurture and grow your database. But if you're not converting them, all of this was pointless, right? All of it was a waste of time. Conversion is getting someone to sell to you at your price, right? E is for empower. Empower and impact your community. Again, if you are a driving force in the community, if you're constantly in the community, you're referring people, you're getting people into great houses, you're not becoming a slumlord, you're actually fixing up your properties and making them good properties, people are going to start talking. People will start referring you because they want you to be the type of landlord for their community, right? Even homeowners are going to say, well, if they're going to sell it to an investor anyway, it might as well be the guy that I know does a good job, right? Like his property is not going to be messy. There's not going to be trash all over the lawn. He's going to make sure his tenants are cutting the grass. These are all things that we hear about constantly. I'm constantly hearing, first-time landlords calling me, oh, my tenant, I'm getting notices from the borough because my tenant has the lawn messy. Why? Like, why aren't you managing that tenant? Right? Because now all your neighbors hate you, and they're not going to talk about you in the community. They're going to talk about you well, what they're going to say isn't going to be great. So making sure your properties are clean, you're providing great housing, you're placing great tenants. This is you empowering and impacting your community because you're keeping property values up, right? I spent an entire Saturday driving to properties that are managed by my property managers that I just don't trust that they're going to do. That's a question. Yeah, so we record the entire meeting, and it's posted on all of our social media platforms. So yeah, absolutely. Yep. Thank you. Good question. The entire thing is recorded and posted on all of our social media platforms and YouTube after the meeting, usually the day after. And we send out an email thanking everyone for coming as well with a link to that. So, good question, Chris. Empowering and impacting your community. Like I said, this is huge. Educate the community, attend and host events, engage in local businesses. And this goes all the way up to the builder level. I'll give you an example. There's a new construction community being built in Norristown, and it's like a 90-unit condo building. It's a pretty big project. This builder, prior to even breaking ground, held a party on the field that they were building, invited all the local neighbors, like created a great name for herself in the community so that she wasn't getting a lot of pushback when it came time to zoning, right? These are the things, the way these builders think. They're smart, right? And it should be the same for you as an investor. If you're buying and growing and scaling in a community and you're giving back to the community and you're providing, having parties, providing events like block parties, things like that, people are going to talk about you. Engage with local businesses. If you want to be a part of this community and invest in it, it's in your best interest to build it up, right? By following the zone roadmap, you create a highly targeted sales and marketing machine that brings you leads and deals predictably month in and month out. And this works in any business. In any business, you need predictability. If you know that the marketing you're going to do is going to get you X amount of leads every month, and from those X leads, you're going to convert X amount of deals, that's a powerful business, right? That is a repeat and referral business that you've built. And you need to work on this for some time. It doesn't happen overnight. So understanding what a dream team is really important, right? No one succeeds alone. You'll need partners, service providers, contractors, and others just to perform the basic tasks required to invest in real estate. But some of them will be superstars who do more than fill a role. They will be a source of referrals, ideas, and energy that help you grow. Identify and nurture those relationships as key members of your team. All right. This goes in every aspect. I'm a real estate agent. I run a real estate team. If I have a client that really likes me and is referring me to all their friends and family, I treat that person like a rock star. You know, like they're getting tickets to events, I'm taking them out to dinner. That's intentional. I really appreciate what they're doing. They're helping me build my business by referring me to their friends and family. I appreciate that and I give back. I earned that by one, marketing to get that lead, getting them into my database, showing them I'm a great agent, helping them, referring people to them, and eventually they give back to me. And I'm going to keep rewarding them for it. Same thing goes if you have someone in your investment business, a contractor that's giving you good deals, right? We have another question here. How to find contractors. My favorite question, Bella. This is a tough one, right? I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not like I'm perfect at this. I think the contractor is the most difficult one to find a good one, right? I think you can easily find a real estate agent because they have referrals on, they have reviews online. They usually have to have, if they're a good realtor, they have some sort of social footprint that you can follow, right? You could go find them on any social media platform. Title companies, same thing. Lenders, same thing. Contractors are a different breed. And to find a reliable contractor can be very difficult if you don't already have one in your network, right? And what I've found is when you do find one, they usually go one way or another. They do a couple deals with you and they get really good, and then they become too expensive for you anymore, which is fine. I'm happy for them. They did their thing, they grew their business. Now they're at a point where they're doing bigger projects and it's making them more money. I can't blame them. They don't want to do my fix and flip. They want to do the mainline bathroom. All right, good for you. Or what I found more regularly is most contractors think they're handy, so they can all of a sudden run a business, and they realize they can't. They don't know how to invoice, they don't know how to plan projects, they don't know how to price things, and they end up burning out very quickly. And if they burn out whilst they're doing your job, it costs you a ton of money. So that's the most difficult part, honestly, in my opinion, is getting the right contractor. Usually I try to source my most reliable person for that. Now, in my network, I'm the agent, so I'm the person people comes to for everything, and I try to refer when I can. But I'm investing out in Pittsburgh, so I found an agent that is known for fix and flips in that area and working with investors. And I found out why, and he's like, "Well, his family has a contracting business that is reputable. They had reviews. I asked him for people to refer like that he's done this with before. He referred a few people. I called them, and we've done a couple projects together now. I did my homework, right? In the past, I would take a referral from a friend or family member for a contractor, and I would just take it on its face value. And I'd take it on its face value, and that's what that would end up costing me, right? Because I didn't actually do my homework, and I can't blame the person that referred them to me. They thought they were doing me a favor, right? I should have done some more research to make sure this person was what I was looking for. Okay. So treat your superstars that way. Other question: do you teach all types of negotiations in real estate or just fix and flips? Depends. I mean, I'm a real estate agent. I've sold close to 1,000 homes. So I've negotiated a lot of those deals. I've bought apartment buildings. I've negotiated commercial purchases, like it depends. But yeah, I can teach a lot of different types of negotiations because I've been in, enough, not all. Again, I haven't purchased a 50 unit building yet, right? The biggest building I've done is 11. So, I have my limits, but I can definitely, uh, was there one in Chris, was there one in, or Christian, was there one specifically you were thinking about?
Yeah, so just when you were saying that after a certain amount of fix and flips and things like that, when a contractor grows their business, they tend to move on at a certain point. And you're like, all right, well, great, let's move on to a bigger home. Okay, they reach the bigger home. All right, well, it's time to move on, they say again. And then you're like, all right, great, you move to my commercial side of my business. Is that a way to keep long-time contractors by continuously progressing them up your rung of ladders, if that makes sense?
For sure. Yeah. If you guys grow simultaneously, yes. I think in their business, they can grow faster because, they can deploy multiple teams and have like be a project manager. What you find is most contractors, when they start off, they're the guy, right? They're the one there. Maybe they have a couple people helping them. And as they get really good, then they're now more of a project manager. They're pricing, they're doing the invoices, they're getting, the team set up, and they're coming to check them in the morning, and they go to the next job, right? So they're able to, hey, how's it going? So they're able to scale a lot quicker than you could as the investor if you're not starting off with a lot of capital. So is that likely that you both scale at the same pace? Probably not, but it could certainly happen, right? And I'm not saying it's impossible at all, but yeah, definitely, definitely, good question. And one thing to remember as an investor, like if you're looking at fix and flips or apartment buildings or whatever you're looking at, um, uh, you're trying to squeeze as much out of that deal as possible, right? Sometimes those margins come from what the contractor charges, right? So, I've done deals where the contractor broke the deal because they were so expensive and took so long. And I've done deals where the contractor made the deal because they were working so quickly and efficiently and priced so well that I was like, man, I made way more than I thought I was going to on this. So, yes, there is a negative side as being a contractor working with an investor because especially beginner investors, we're looking to make as much money as possible. If we're letting our contractors charge 5-star contractor prices, we're not making money, right? So there's that push and pull that I certainly understand. If I were a contractor getting into that business, I wouldn't solely build my business on working with investors. That'd be a part of my business, but I certainly want to be the guy that people call us to do their $70,000 kitchen, or whatever, because that's where you make a big margin, right? So again, network with your dream team. Okay. That's all about staying top of mind. It's in any business. If you are, again, I have clients that will just refer me to everyone because we've become great friends over the years and they trust me. And I treat them that way. I mean, I literally treat them that. I'll get them involved in stuff to help them make money that they were like, why did you even involve me in this? And I'm like, because I like you and I want you to keep liking me, and that. So like, I have a friend who is, would refer me to a couple of his friends. We became good friends. Whenever I have a quick like fix and flip deal that I'm looking for like a 15% personal loan on, I would go to him. I'm like, I don't have to give him 15%. I can go get a 10% loan somewhere. But he loves it, and I don't let the IRS know I'm paying him, so it's a win-win, right? These are the relationships you build, and there's a give and take to it, right? And I know the value of that person. I want to help them grow too. It's not just about me. So make sure you're staying in contact with them. In my CRM, I have a reminder, like my top people I want to talk to every couple of weeks. My not so busy people, maybe every couple of months, but I make sure I'm reminded to talk to them. And that's what a system's for. As you grow your business, you're going to have so many people in your database that it's going to be impossible to just open your phone and remember who to call. So you have to have a CRM in place, a client relationship manager in place to do that. and help them. Again, to me, feeding them is helping them, like making sure they make money, make sure they're involved in your wherever they want to be in terms of your deals. If you find a good deal, and I've brought like some of my private loan investors on deals I didn't even have to, and give them a cut of the flip or whatever, because I want them to keep working with me, right? Like that's about feeding your network, right? If I have tickets to the Eagles game and I'm, like I can't go that Sunday, I'm calling my top people to see if they want to go, right? Like I'm not trying to sell it to them. I'm like, not here, like this is for you, That's how good relationships work. So if you have someone in a neighborhood that's calling you because they're a roofer and this person needs to sell a house, they can't afford to fix up the house anymore, and they get you that referral, better be calling that person every couple of weeks and thanking them. Give them the job, first of all, of doing the roof. But on top of that, keep thanking them because they're worth a lot of money to your business. All right. So I know a lot of you came in a little bit at the end. We went through quite a bit. So I'm just going to skip back a bit and touch on a few things maybe you missed in terms of the this it wasn't a super long presentation. The most important thing, don't sue me, right? And then from there, it's again, zero in, target your market. So select an area, research the area, um, develop your value proposition and build your brand in that area. Own the mind share of your market. So start with prospecting, build through networking, multiply through marketing, right? Prospecting, this is outbound activity and you're trading time for leads, making offers on listed properties, checking newspapers, Craigslist, Facebook, and local sources for deals and listings, going door to door or calling for sale by owners. Networking, this is letting the world know what business you're in and how you can help. You're also in the right place attending events like this, telling people in the world that you invest in X, becoming a connector, adding value to others, building a dream team. Marketing, this is using dollars to leverage to dollars and leverage to deliver a message that gets the phone to ring. Postcards, door hangers, websites, Google AdWords, direct mail, social media. You need a message that is tailored to the audience you're trying to help, right? So if you're like investing in Southwest Philadelphia, cash for keys, right? Like that's tailored to that audience. You need a quick sale of your house, we'll buy your house, any price, any condition, as is, right? If you're targeting Villanova rental properties, that verbiage doesn't work, right? Like you're like, I will pay over market value for your rental. Like that's the, cash, no inspections, over market value, take it as is. Like you have to be very specific with what you're targeting, right? So understand the market, you're trying to leverage, and target it that way, right? Nurture and grow your database. We just kind of touched on this, but again, incubate your database, create digital content, and convert them to leads. If you're doing all of this and you're not converting to leads, and then you're not working those leads and converting them to sales, you're wasting your time, right? And empower and impact your community. To me, this is the most important. I think if you're a really good landlord and you're running a really good property and people in the area know you, like a lot of people like to be kind of secretive about who they are and what they own. But if you're investing in a neighborhood and you're trying to build up like who you are in that neighborhood, and you're doing things like block parties and making sure the property's clean, making sure you're keeping tabs on your tenant, they're not letting the grass go too high, just being a responsible landlord. Don't let moss grow all over the front of the property, right? We drive by those homes, you see them, they're run down, and you just assume like some slumlord owns that, right? Don't be that guy or gal. That starts to work in your community. You start getting those calls. People want, if they're going to be rentals in that community, which there are, every community has rentals. They want the person like you running and owning one versus whoever else is coming in that's not going to do these things, not going to pull the rental license, it's not going to follow the local ordinance, right? Not going to screen their tenants. They're going to put in the worst tenant because they're willing to pay the highest rent, right? These are all mistakes. And if you're doing those over and over again, you're going to develop a reputation of being that guy in the community. You don't want that. So, educate the community. I've always found that like like empowering people to purchase. Like I've always tell all my tenants, at least the one like in like the single family homes, if you're ever at the point where you want to buy, like come to me. I can show you how to do this. I don't want you to be my tenant forever. Right. Like that's not good for me because I'll raise the rent slower, right? If I like you. I don't want to do that. I want there to be some turnover every few years so that I can refresh and really bump the rents up. So I don't need you to be here forever, right? I'd rather you become a homeowner, right? I'd rather get you back into that position. There's a lot of programs where people will do like rent to own situations where they're buying properties, fixing them up with the intention of the tenant renting to own them. The reason they're doing that is because they're getting more in rent for it. They're putting someone in that needs to be in a position that to purchase that way. They're not ready to purchase yet, and they're providing value, and they can eventually sell the property for more, right? So, like following the zone roadmap, you can create a highly targeted sales and marketing machine that brings you leads and deals predictably, month in and month out. And again, building a predictable business is what this is all about, right? If your business is I want to do one flip a year as my side hustle, great. You can do that. And you could potentially pull that off fairly easily with a good agent or just keeping your ear to the ground. You don't have to do all of this. But if your goal is to eventually grow that business to do multiple flips or eventually grow that business by multiple rentals, you need to have a source of leads. It can't just be one realtor. I tell my investors, work with people. You don't have to just work with me. Like I'm not the only person in the world. I'm working with other agents and I'm an agent. I tell agents all the time at the closing table, if you ever have a deal, please call me. Like I'm looking to buy. I'll let you have the commission. Like you've earned it for finding me that deal. That's networking, right? And be loyal to those that bring you deals, but also be out there, you know? I think a few of you came in and right here where we were talking about the dream team. So now that the actual presentation is over, I'll open it up for questions. What do we got? Nothing? Come on. Good. Good.
I've been traveling back and forth to the hometown to, go see it, go visit family, go visit friends, and it's like, shit, like he still has to finish.
Right.
So, I mean, is that like a red flag contract?
So what I've learned with contractors is you have to be specific with you have to be specific with what you want from them, right? And you have to put that in writing. So I actually do my own scopes of work. I don't let the contractor do it because usually the guys I'm hiring don't even know what a scope of work is. So and that's fine. Like if I know their work is good and I trust them because I've seen a few projects and everything and I've worked with them before, totally fine. I'm doing my own scopes of work and I'm being really specific. What's that? So a scope of work is like any contractor can give you a bid, right? Any contractor could say $800 to paint this room, $4,000 in flooring for the building. A scope of work is like a very specific breakdown of that. So it's like a picture of the flooring I want used and the sections of the house I want it used for. Take it with your phone. I do them a lot in my notes pad on my phone. Like I'll take the picture, insert it right there, right, and circle on it because you can do all this on your iPhone now. Circle on here, I want replaced, and I want this type, and I'll put a link to the actual flooring I want used, right? Once you've done a few of those, you have a template, and now you're just replacing the pictures because you're using the same stuff over and over again, right? So you could actually come up with your scope before you even find a property. You could say, go look through like all the flips in the neighborhood and see one that sold for over asking very quickly, right? And look at all the stuff they use and go find those in whatever Home Depot, whatever your supply store is, and put those links on a breakdown, a scope. So when you find the right property, you're just walking through, you're taking pictures. I've sometimes done a video with my contractor because I know they're going to forget. Like they always do. They're like, oh, yeah, I got that. I'll walk through, and as I'm walking through, hey, in this room, here's specifically what we're doing. Boom, we're gonna do this, and I'm talking into the video, and then I'm sending them the video when I'm done because I don't want them to say I didn't tell them something, right? And the more specific you can get, the better it's gonna be. So if you're saying to them, they're saying to you, this is a 3-week job. Okay, that's what I'm gonna give you. It's 3 weeks, right? I have contracts that say my daily interest on my loan is $45 a day. Every day over that comes off your check, right? That's how specific you have to be with people. Because if I'm paying a hard money lender, which is a lot of money these days, and you're telling me this is a 3-week job and it's a 6-week job, I'm going to hold it against you, right? Because that's factored into my numbers. That's why I bought the property. So don't tell me what you want me to hear so that I can go buy the property, right? Tell me what I actually have to hear so you're not wasting my time. Okay. If you find, and I've had plenty of contractors sign those contracts because, and there's been situations where they've owed me money because they took way longer. I'm not like, if it's one day over, I'm not going to break, but hour 2, 3, 4 a week, what's happening, and that's money out of my pocket, not yours, because I'm paying the interest. Right. So these are things that, there's plenty of templated contracts out there. I recommend you use these things. So with your guy, go back to him and say, hey, remember we talked about this taking this long? It's not. Like, how are you going to make that up to me? Are you going to give me a discount? Like, because you're costing me money now, right? So these are questions you have to start asking these guys. And if they're honest and they're good, they won't make the mistake again, number one, but two, they'll work with you, right? Yeah, so Velda said, learning the power of your network. Absolutely. I really want to build networks as well. A real estate investor at heart. I want to build that dream team. Total beginner. Absolutely, man. And a lot of people that come to these are beginners. Like I said, I've had people that haven't done any deals. I've had people that have done a few. I've had people, we had a guy in October that had 700 units. So like there's varying levels of experiences. Totally fine. Like that's what this is for. But I think the first thing to do, Christian, is to pick your area. So if you know where you're going to target, you can find out who drive around that neighborhood and see what the real estate sign you see the most is, right? There is a realtor that's farming that neighborhood. If they're any good, I have neighborhoods I farm, right? That I sell the majority of my properties in, right? If you're a good realtor, you own a neighborhood, right? You're doing 40% of the business in that neighborhood annually, and you're tapped into the deals. You're getting the phone calls. You're seeing the grandma's house that needs, the lipstick. You're seeing these deals, and you can't buy them all. So you'd rather sell them to an investor. There's plenty of projects where I'll get the project and I'm like, should I flip this? And then I think about, well, I'm going to put 6 months of work into it. And the commission I make on the front end and the commission I make on the back end is going to pretty much be what I made on the flip. So I should just sell it to one of my clients, right? And I tell it, hey man, I would do this one, but I'd rather just help you buy it and sell it, and you'll make the 20 grand or whatever. And my client's happy because this is a side hustle for them, right? So if you pick the area that you want to be in, you can find the people that are working in those areas, right? You could find the agents that are commonly in there. Drive around, ask people who they use as the contractor. Like these are things you start building up knowledge of the area, and that's where it's hard to pick the right area though, right? The one thing I would say is, for me, I want it to be within 30 minutes of where I live if I'm doing a flip, right? Especially if it's my first one, my first burr. I want to be able to see what's going on. And we know we're all busy. We have jobs. If you have kids, if you have whatever, to be more than 30 minutes from your house, it's hard to get there once or twice a week to fit it into your schedule. So be realistic with your availability, but make sure it's reachable. Until you get to the point that you're comfortable enough to do a long distance project because you have enough experience, don't do it. Okay. Make it, and that's what I was telling you, like make it somewhere drivable for the first 1 or 2, 3, whatever. Just because take your bruises locally, like things are going sideways on a flipping, Alabama. You can't get there in a half hour, right? So, and that's, everyone's looking for the cheapest areas, but you can really hang yourself up if you have a project that goes terribly in Alabama, right?
Yeah.
So,
That effect, I guess, location's important, but then what you want to do is also important too in terms of to fix and flip. I would think it'd be more difficult to do that than like a wholesaling kind of project where you just take it and upcharge, sell it, sort of thing. And you might be able to do something like that, or even buying and holding. But if you plan on house hacking and doing certain things like that, and that might be easier to get into those things than fix and flips. But area matters in certain regards to every one of those paths has its own challenges, of course. But I guess for me starting off, I'm wondering what the best way to dip my toe into real estate would be, because hopping into a fix and flip is not going to be an easy feat.
mm-hmm. So it depends. Everything I hear is that the lowest means to entry in real estate investing is wholesaling. Now, I'm not personally a fan of wholesaling because I'm a real estate agent. That to me is against what I'm supposed to be doing, which is helping people sell their property for the most money. A wholesaler is trying to get it for the lease and steal the equity in the middle. That's reality. What's a wholesaler? Not saying it's not illegal. What's that?
Oh no, I'm just saying, got you. Yeah.
So it's not illegal. It's been going on forever. It's a way of doing things. But just for me, I'm afraid as a real estate agent, someday they're going to make that illegal. And all the agents that are playing that game are going to end up losing their licenses. And I don't want to lose my way of making money, right? So I don't think if you're a realtor, you should be wholesaling. I'm not saying you can't. You can start an LLC and do whatever you want. Just don't do it under your real estate license, right? Wholesaling can be good if you know what you're doing, but most flail out because they get a deal and they think it's a great deal, but they didn't run title on it. They didn't make sure the seller had enough equity to do what they're actually planning on doing here. And so many times it falls apart a week before closing because they found out there's 5 liens they didn't account for, and the wholesaler ends up taking like $1,000 at the end, and it wasn't worth 9 months of their life, right? So, it's fine. So wholesaling, really do your homework. Make sure you understand what you're getting into. Make sure you have a good title company that'll help you run title on these properties before you lock up that contract and start selling it to other people, right? Really do it the right way, because you could burn a lot of bridges by just being a unprepared wholesaler, which is most.
Gotcha. And sorry, one last thing. So for somebody that's renting currently, I'd like to get off on my own, totally in terms of things like that, buy a place and then house hack, at least at the start, because I feel like that's the easiest point of entry, and then scale into doing the fix and flips, if that makes sense. Is that a good approach? Because I want to start, I feel like I'm in this shell, and then I want to open it into the next shell and then get my power team and then go into that next layer. You know what I mean? Is that a good approach?
I think if I were to start over, and I think about this all the time because of all the mistakes I made along the way, but if I were to start over, the first thing I would have done would be a house hack. I would have bought a 4-unit using an FHA loan, put 3.5% down, get a grant for the rest of the down payment. Even if it's a 2-unit or a 3-unit, buy a profitable building using an FHA loan, live in one of the units for a year, have my tenants pay my rent, save up some more money, then go do a fix and flip because I'm learning. I'm taking my bruises on that first one. Chances of you making money on your first fix and flip are, I don't know, I'm assuming 5%. Like I feel like most people lose money or break even on their first one. But you learn so much from it. Like you understand who to work with, what things cost, what market you want to be in, how the lending side of things work. Like you learn so much that's like you're paying for an education on that first one. And then the second one, you can really make some money. And now you have working capital in your business. You're living for free because your house hacked. You have working capital in your business because you did a flip that made you money. And now you can use that money to either do another flip or go buy a burr, right? You do a burr, which is, you're planning on holding that property, right? You know how much things cost to renovate because you just did 2 flips. And you do a burr, you finish your burr. Now you can go buy a 5% down duplex and then move into the duplex and rent out your 4 unit, your 4th unit at your 4 unit building. You have a duplex that you purchased for just 5% down. So now you have 6 units, 7 units because you did a burr in the interim. That burr could have been a multi-unit with like 8.5% down out of pocket total, right? Now this is years. This isn't months. This is 2-3 years of work, right? If you ever read the book, forget the book Brandon Turner wrote, but it was like, how to be a real estate, like starting of being a real estate investor. I'll tell you guys the book because I have it in my, but this was like the path he outlined. And it's a path I thought about so many times before I read that book. Like, how would I restart and do it correctly? That's what it is for me. It's use an FHA loan to buy a 3 or 4 unit building, do a flip to take my bruises, do another flip to earn some income, move into a duplex and rent out my 4th unit, do a burr. So now I have 7 units over like a 2-3 year span. I've done a flip. I have some history. And then at that point, like I could buy the house I want to actually live in, or I could just stay in my apartment that I own I own the building and just keep investing, right? Keep buying, doing more flips, scaling up. But to me, that's like if you're like, hey, what's the perfect game plan for someone that's in your position? That's what I would do 100%. Yeah, yep, that exactly. And look, could you buy a property FHA and not ever actually move in? I don't know. It's up to you, right? I don't know what bank's coming, but I've had clients do it and the bank never knocked on their door. You know, it's a risk, sure, but you know, and you could do a burr with like a 203K. You could get an FHA renovation mortgage. Those are Don't fall in love with those. They're not as easy as the bank makes them sound. And you do need way more reserves than the bank makes you think, right? So I used to pitch those to like my clients early on when I fell in love with investing. And I'm like, you got to do this. You got to buy a fixer upper and I realized like that's not for everyone. Like it's a project. It's a big deal. Unless you really want to get into investing, like a 203K is not for everyone. It's a tricky loan. So that's not for everyone. Sorry, Velda. What else we got? I mean, we have time because this was a shorter presentation. You guys got any questions? Anything you got going on? Any deals? I sent you that Norwood one, and we sold it for 10 over asking. Yeah. So, but I think if I have any more, I'll let you know. We have an Eddie Stone. That's an end row. That's like they're asking 210. I think he would take 200, but those rent pretty well. That one, not as much. The Norwood one did. The Eddie Stone one was renovated like 4 years ago. It could use a cleanup, but it's not really a burr. The Norwood one.
Norwood burr in it?
No, probably it was an investor, so possibly, yeah. I didn't rep the buyer on it. It was another agent that came through.
Yeah. 300 unit in Dallas.
What's that?
We lost out on the 300 unit in Dallas due to eminent domain. The seller didn't tell us that 50 of the units were like under, and they're doing something with the government or something like that. So they did like all the marketing and everything already, and then just like the last one, they're like about the loans, and they're like, yeah, it's like they try to come down on the price, but the price wouldn't cover the loan of the seller, so they're just like it's no go. So
Ouch.
yeah, but we're seeing a lot of deal flow, man. A lot of people are in trouble.
Yeah.
It's coming like it's like 2 years in the making. From when I first started, and like the reason why like I got into syndication was like the guy was like, like it's the time to learn now because a lot of people reserves are running out. They're not coming down fast enough, and now they're only going to get like 2 drops this year. At that, it's like so like now we're seeing a lot of deals are coming through, and it's an interesting time.
Yeah, no, I was telling him because he had asked me about Pottstown before everyone got here. I have a 10 unit in Pottstown and I bought it in the end of 2020. So my rate on it's 4.5%. Now I've done some renovations to it. I've definitely brought the value up. My cap rate's much higher, but it's 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 a commercial loan. So in 5 years I have to do something with it. So 2026, I got to do something with it. If the rates stay the same, I'm gonna go from a 4.5 to probably 7.5. Now, luckily, I've done enough to raise rents over that period that it's not gonna kill me. It's gonna suck. Like my cash flow is gonna go down. But there's a lot of people that didn't. A lot of people bought in 2020, 2021, 2022, thinking they had all this time to figure things out. And
the crazy thing is like people are talking about, well, that's just bad operations. Like no one saw the rates shoot up that fast. Like there's no one in no underwriting that you could ever predicted for those rates to fly so high.
yeah.
And in some places like you had to take that balloon rate, those floating rates. So it's just the circumstances of it.
Yeah. No, it happened all over. Luckily, in a market like ours, even in Philly, all those investors that started building those apartment buildings, I'm seeing a lot of those stuff come to funds, and the funds are buying them and condoing them out, which is causing like an influx of condos in the city. And
Are people? I keep asking people, I'm like, are people in those buildings?
a lot of them are vacant.
That's what I keep hearing. Like people like,
Yeah.
yes, and I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I just don't see the influx of a population that huge. Like,
Yeah.
you can't see the water on Columbus Boulevard anymore. And I'm like, there's no way we're getting the influx of population that are filling up all these buildings. And then you got the condos all the way up, all the way down. And I'm just like, yeah. And people, I've heard like people like, yeah, they are. And I'm like, nah, there's no way.
No.
Man. Like, we're not getting that much of the influx of the population.
Yeah. It's like a constant stream of like 13 to like 18 unit buildings that started during COVID and they're just sitting some of them are 90% done. But because the loan adjusted so much on the primary, they just can't even afford the holding costs. So they're letting it go. And a lot of them are non-recourse, so they're fine with letting it go. And these funds are eating them up. These funds are coming in and buying them at like 30 cents on the dollar or whatever. And that's like that's the big game of wholesaling. That's a real wholesale when you could come in as a fund and take over and then resell it before.
But even then, it's like, I just don't see maybe because I'm just bearish on Philadelphia compared to what I see in other places.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I just don't see it being sustainable, especially like down, like, I don't know, maybe I'm not seeing something like, especially like now with the crazy thing now is like we're losing funding. So now, the government cut all these grant monies from Penn and everything like that. So all those students or those faculties are supposed to be coming to the city to live here.
Yeah.
Now there's another cut. They cut like another 140 million from Penn today or something like that.
Yeah.
So now all those people are supposed to come in on those grants to live in the city. It's just like,
yeah,
what else are you going to come here for? You know what I mean?
So the one good thing, I think, which is why people feel so comfortable with our region, is we've been in a down cycle in real estate for the last almost 2-3 years. Like since mid 22, it's been a down cycle, but not here, right? And people are like, oh no, it's going great. No, like the rest of the country hasn't been going great since mid 22. Since those rates jumped up from 3% to almost 8 in like a 6 to 9 month period, most of the country, real estate wise, has been suffering, whereas our region stayed strong. So people saw that and they're like, well, if at the worst it's going to stay strong here, we're going to keep pouring money into that market.
But at the same time, what do you think about the thing I keep saying about Philadelphia is that we're such a subsidized housing city, you know what I mean? So I think do you think that sort of keeps us afloat?
Well, what you're saying though before this is makes sense, right? For me, our region is heavily uh, education and medical based, like healthcare. When those two industries are impacted, our region will suffer, and one of those two industries are being impacted right now. Do I think? I mean, we're still. I lost a bidding war. I went 60 grand over for a single family in Havertown for one of my clients. It's still wild in so yeah, like one of my clients, I wasn't for an investment. They a nice single family home in Havertown. We went 60 over and we lost. That's still happening. Like I was in 3 bidding wars this week in Hockessen because that's a super hot area. There's not a lot of inventory.
Where's it
Hockessen, Delaware. It's like uh yeah, west of Wilmington. And it's where like Joe Biden's from, like so it's like a very like popular area right now. You can get these nice big single families for 600,000-700,000 and the taxes are only 3 grand. What's that?
You get land too?
Yeah, there's a good amount of space out there. It's kind of a mixture of like Chester County meets Delaware County a little bit because it's not as crowded, but it's not as rural, and you don't have this all the farm smell, So it is a nice area, and there's plenty of nice areas around here, and they're not struggling. And I think that's why people are so interested in our area because it historically has done well, right? And because it's a very old area, think where we're at, right? Um, uh, yeah, Christian, the next one is analyzing and doing deals. That's the next topic.
Yeah.
And then Velda
Kind of
asked,
break that down. I was, you know, thinking about not just the fix and flips, but also house hacking and things like that, or maybe both, whatever. But the way to analyze, like where to look, I don't even know if, like you said, buying in a state. I kind of live near. I'm in Pennsylvania. I live near well, actually, we're all in Pennsylvania. We live near the Delaware border. So, buying something down there is reachable, but also up here. But the, taxes and prices and everything down there are kind of, seem to be cheaper. Do I buy down
Yeah.
there, but know the market as well, or, I also heard that like it depends on like the market turns, the area and things like that, like you're talking about. I spoke to one guy, he said, well, why not buy in Conshohocken or something like that? And this was like last year or so.
Yeah.
It was going through an upturn where they were starting to gentrify and grow the area really fast. It's like, even though it seems like it's less advantageous, like price wise and things like that, if you invest in it now, it'll go up. And so even if prices are cheaper in Delaware, if you invest in a place that goes up, it's like X, multiplying your property by X versus buying something cheaper that might not be multiplying. So your returns would be
Whoever
less.
told you to invest in Conshohocken doesn't know what they're talking about. Conshohocken is a hot market. It's too expensive to invest in, right? And we Conshohocken's been turned over for like probably 15 years now. They're very late on Conchi. Um, as a new investor, you don't want to invest in a market like that. If you're a cash heavy investor that's looking for strong, stable, but low yield return investments, yeah, invest in markets like that. But if you're new, you're not going to make money in Conshohocken. That's a tough market. That it's already pretty squeezed dry right now, and you're battling with some really big players in those markets. So yeah, if you could find something, it's tough. Yeah.
It is. So one other thing to consider is like, does it matter as much the property price if you can find a way to make more on the returns as possible, if that makes sense? Like they're the people that you're house hacking with are also essentially paying off your mortgage. So the only thing limiting you is really the down payment up front, whether you can get
Right.
multiple houses or, in areas. And how does that whole analysis work? If you think with that.
It's very different if you're house hacking versus doing a burr versus doing a flip, right? Or buying an apartment building. So if you're buying a 4 unit building and you plan on living in one of those units, for me, just do simple math. Do the 3 units pay your mortgage, right? If the 3 units pay your mortgage, and you're living quote unquote for free in the fourth one, it's a great deal because when you move out, the 4 units will not only pay your mortgage, but they'll give you enough for reserves, capital expenses, and then a little bit of profit. If you're making more than $200 a door in cash flow each month, it's a great property. And that's the thing people don't like to hear. People hear, rentals and they think landlords are making $1,000 a month in profit. That's like nobody. Unless you own the property cash, nobody's making $1,000 a month. You're making, after you pay all your expenses, you're lucky to clear $200 a month on each door in that property. So if you have a 4 unit building and you move out and after all expenses, you're clearing $800, that's a killer building. And I would hold on to that for a long, long time, right? Until you could find something better to do with the money. But so that's my evaluation. If I'm looking at multifamilies after PITI, so principal, interest, taxes, insurance are paid, after all of my expenses and overestimate for expenses, I use 18% for property management because
Units like less than
what's that?
Less than 20 or something like that.
Yeah, because of the turnover, right? Every time a unit turns over, the property manager takes a month's rent. So if you average that out over 12 months, that's 18%. It's not 10%, right? So I use 18% for property management. I do 30% off the top as my expenses. That's 18% property management, and then the other 12 for CapEx and vacancies. If you can find a property that fits that mold, if you're making $3,000 a month and uh, and in rent, and you could take $1,000 off the top, 30%, and it's still profitable after you pay your mortgage, that's a good property, right? Like and people are shocked by that, but you know, I have 70 doors and I'm nowhere near cash flowing to pay my bills because I'm partnered on a lot of those doors. People are like, oh, you must be making so much money. No, no. Like the reality is the first like 3 to 5 years, you're just building equity. You're trying to work your way through these buildings to make them profitable. And if you're partnered, you're splitting that pot. So you gotta think like if I found a great building and I'm making $200 a door, but I have 3 partners, we're all making like $60, $65 each per month on each door. It's not this crazy number people think of. Um, and so it takes a lot of doors to get to the point that you're financially free. And that's really how the rental market works. Like you have to be honest with yourself about like how long it's going to take. If you're a investor and you're like, I want to make 10 grand a month so I can have that passive income and not quit my job, but maybe live more comfortably and work the job I want to work. That's realistically 50 doors if you find a bunch of great deals. It's more likely more, especially if you're partnered with people. What was that?
That's a 50 door solo.
Right. If you're doing a solo, if you're partnering with people and everything I own, I partnered with people on, it's less, right? So be ready for that. Like be ready for 5 years of not making any money, right? Like any real investor you talk to will tell you that. Your first 5 years, you're not actually making money. You're building a bunch of equity, you're learning a bunch of stuff, but the cash flow is not great, right? Eventually, it starts to snowball. But up front, there's no get rich quick scheme here. It's 5 years of torture and you'll get there.
I came back, I feel like that was very important to hear that. Please rewind it like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that it's going to be all right for me to not make a lot of money for the first 5 years. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm only 8 years into being a real estate investor. The last 5 years have been heavy. I just started to cash flow off my investments. People come into this and they're like, I'm going to quit my job in a year because they hear, that one great story on a podcast of someone that is that like 0.001% of lucky and skilled and had the right resources, all of these things combined, and they think, I'm going to do that. And no, right? We're the 99.99% where it's going to take you, I think, a minimum of 5 years to build a cash flowing portfolio that can help you quit your job, right? Or at least replace your income so you can do something else. The the great part about that is when you get to that point that you are making that cash flow, your equity is going to be substantial. And that's when you could start snowballing. Because now you could do a blanket mortgage and take out a cash out refinance and now use that money to power your investments, right? But until then, it's just keep chipping away, just keep swinging. And, there's gonna be nights where you're ripping your hair out, like, why did I get myself into? And that happens constantly. Just this last refinance we did, I'm like, what is this bank? I was losing my mind the amount of paperwork they were asking. And I was staying up at night, like putting together individual rent ledgers for because this isn't something I've ever had to do before. It's like wild what these banks ask for. And in the end, they ended up finishing the loan and didn't even ask me for the paperwork. And I was like, what did I just waste, like 12 hours of my life doing, but I'm happy now because I just got a cash out refi that's tax-free money, so yeah. No,
With
I'm not
that,
trying to scare anybody away. I'm just trying to make you guys be realistic with what's going to happen.
sorry, I'm about to drop off here. I just wanted to ask about that refinance. If a property price goes up and you refinance, do you gain on that? And if property prices decrease during a cycle, do you lose? How does that refinance thing work?
So as long as you keep the property long enough, you're going to make money, right? If you're managing it right. So for me, on a down cycle, the goal is to keep the property, right? If all those people that lost their shirts in 2008 through 2010 just held those properties, there'd be gazillionaires right now, right? Because all those properties are worth twice what they were worth back then. So in a down cycle, as long as you're buying smart and you're not squeezing every dime of equity out of the property when you own it, you'll be safe. And what I mean by that is when you do a cash out refinance, you can usually go to 75%. If you don't have to and you could stay at like 65 or even 60%, you're in a great position. Because when there is a down cycle, which there usually is, it happens, you might lose 10, worst market 20%. Well, you're at 80%, you had another 15 to 20% of equity. You're okay. If you have to sell that property, you're still going to make money, right? Uh, and then when it comes back, it's going to come back stronger because it always does. Historically, properties are always going to be more expensive. It just is what it is, right? That's what, our society is, right? Um, so in a down cycle, yes, you'll lose equity, but if you have enough of it, you're okay. In a up cycle, absolutely, but don't pull too much out that you kill yourself with it, right? So that's kind of what we were talking about. All those people that own properties prior to 2020, and then all of a sudden they're worth 30% more, and they went and squeezed every dime of equity out. Well, with commercial loans, the rates usually adjust in 5 years. And if you squeezed every dime of equity out and your rate's going to go up 3%, that, that rent better be able to pay that payment at that point. So it's not always in your best interest to squeeze every dime of equity out. Make sure that the payment justifies doing that, right?
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one.
I have a question, if you can hear me. Girish
Yeah,
here.
for sure. I can hear you.
$300 per door, right? So, but how much down payment do you?
You just cut out there, Girish.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So my question is, like you said, $200 per door. If you make it after all your mortgage and expenses and everything, it's a good deal, right? But
Yes.
but what about the down payment, right? How much down payment in that deal do you expect? Like,
See, that's different, right? And this is why I do the Burr
okay,
method because I like to get my money back. So I'm not worried about cash on cash return, right? If you're playing the buy turnkey, put 20-25% down game, you're
right,
looking at cash on cash return. And if you're only making $200 a month on that door, that's $2,400 for the year because it's a one door property. And you put
right,
50 or $75,000 to buy that property. I don't, it's going to take you what, like 20 years to make your money back or something. So it,
Mm,
I don't like I don't play the cash on cash return game yet because I don't have,
right.
the
Mm-hmm.
kind of money to be putting 25% down and leaving it in for 20 years. But
Right.
that's how you look at it. You look at it from I'm putting 25% down. How much am I making monthly? How long is it going to take me to recoup that investment? Right. That's
Mm,
that's how you look at that. I look at it from the Burr method where I think I'm going to get my money back. So I'm not so worried about the cash on cash. I'm more worried about the cash flow and the equity.
got it. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And who can use the HELOC, right? Because if you have investor like who have a $1 million home, and if they have a $500 500,000 equity in that home, can they use that equity to get the money out and put buy another home or like a multi-unit home?
So yes, absolutely. However, they want to make sure it makes sense, right? So
Hmm.
if they
Okay.
have a HELOC and they're pulling $200,000 out and the payment principal and interest is $2,500 a month, but they're only
Uh-huh.
making, you know, $800 in cash flow, it doesn't work, right? Um,
Okay.
but if they're using that, and here's, where you get creative, if you're using that HELOC to do a flip and you make 80 grand on the, not, you're not gonna make 80 grand on a flip, but let's say you make 40 grand on the flip, and now you use that 40 grand to go put 20% down on a $200,000 property,
Hmm.
own a property for free, right? Because you did the flip, you got the income, you use that to invest. So, you can
Okay.
get more creative with your HELOCs and things like that. I wouldn't jump to using the equity to buy another property because you're just, like robbing Peter to pay Paul or whatever. I'd rather make money with that money before I put it out again.
Okay. Got it. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. What else you guys got going on? What are you seeing out there? Yeah.
Yeah, deals. It's hard to get capital. Everyone's like uncertainty is just like everyone's just waiting for everyone's like waiting for like the bottom out, but it's like you can never really time the bottom. You just have to like play it deal by deal. Like, do the numbers make sense?
I think there's a ton of uncertainty right now because I'm not politically motivated at all. I always say that. I don't care who's in power as long as the country's okay, right? But uh like a lot's happened in the last 2 months and it's affecting a lot. Like grants in our area, the stock market's down a little bit, but then it's up. But everybody's all over the place, right? Tariffs. Ugh. Hey, I don't want to hear that word ever again, right? Like it's all everyone's talking about. I'm like, you're forced to become an economist, right? I'm in a property where like 2 weeks ago, I had a closing at this new construction community in Norristown I was talking about. And I'm doing the final walkthrough with the builder, not the owner of the company, the actual contractor. And he's like, this was that Tuesday that the tariffs were supposed to go in on Canada or whatever. Well, he said per unit, so these are condos, they're big condos, but per unit, they were gonna have to raise the price of each unit, I think $18,000 or something per unit to offset, what their charge for lumber was gonna be and their profit and etc. And I was like, man, like, my clients went under contract to buy this in November and they're closing at $359,000. And the next unit that hits the market's going to be, you know, 376 or whatever. Like, think about that just because of a tariff, not because the inflation was there. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's what everyone's like, well, what's going to come? Are the rates going to go down? Are they going to go up? Is the economy going to get better? So it's like it's so uncertain that I'm seeing what you're seeing. Lenders are tightening up, like, and I'm a pretty lendable guy. Like I never made a late payment in my life. Like I don't have bad debt. I have good debt, and I'm having a really hard time. I have experience. Like I've done flips. I've sold a bunch of houses. I'm neck deep in real estate, And I got a really hard time getting a loan recently, and it really pissed me off. I'm like, what is happening? Like I thought I built all this history to be an easy person to lend to, and it didn't matter. And the deal wasn't my property is an excellent property. Like it makes all the sense. If I'm a lender, I'm like, yeah, stake my money. I'm hearing that from everyone, you know. So
Asset-based leverage?
yeah,
Yes, your loans?
yeah, they're all clamping down, man. Like, and they're asking for way more documentation than they have in a long time. Uh, they're everybody's kind of uncertain. I think even, the lenders.
I thought you said before that it was getting easier. No?
It was for a while, and now it's harder to lend. And like he was saying, you're gonna start seeing a lot of deals hit the market because people can't get the financing to get themselves out of it, and they just need to offload them. And you're gonna have trouble getting the finance to purchase them.
What you're
So
telling me is I need to save up as much cash as possible.
always, yeah, 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 always, man. I've never been like a huge most of my assets are in real estate, and I'm probably way over leveraged on real estate. I am like, I need to calm down and put some money aside because who knows, who knows what it's going to be. And a lot of these lenders want you to have like big deposits with them. So I used to go with the small commercial banks. Unless you have like a sizable deposit account with them, they're clamping down now. So, I that's what kind of messed me up in Pittsburgh is I have a really good small commercial lender here, First Resource Bank. I love them. I have a bunch of my business accounts with them. And they lend to me like crazy because our business accounts are there. Like they're comfortable lending to me. I'm out in Pittsburgh. They're like, oh yeah, we don't have any history with you. You're not from around here. It didn't matter that the property manager was local. It didn't matter to have the experience. They're like, we want you to have an investment or deposits with us for us to even underwrite this loan. I'm like, okay, like, so
So it sounds like we're heading for a little 2008 again, or?
no, no, no,
No?
no, I don't think so. I'm still being positive, man. I think, I don't think anybody wants to come.
I don't, I'm afraid, I don't think it's gonna get any worse. I just feel like we're at like a stale point,
Yeah.
like literally this first like flatline.
Mhm.
And that's what the kind of thing is like the flatlining and just trying to figure out where everything, but like everything was going good and then the tariffs. So it's like, seems like I'm thinking we're for like the tariffs up to blow over and we'll see where that takes us because before that, like we were like, it was on the bottom, meaning since when I look at the 10-year treasury, was starting to like bounce down. But like now it's going back up a little bit, but it's just like, I was waiting for things to cool off with this tariff. So I just feel bad for the new construction guys because I know they're gonna get screwed.
Yeah. Well, the buyers, especially in our area, are going to eat that, right? Because there's no houses to buy around here.
Yeah.
So those projects have to continue being built. I'm not talking about in the city, I mean in the suburbs. But I heard a stat like 30% of the active listings in the country are in Florida and Texas.
Mhm.
So like those markets have been stale for years now, right? Again, we're not seeing it here yet, and we're kind of insulated because of our economy locally that we haven't really felt what's been going on around the country for a few years now. So, like he said, I'm hoping this is as bad as it could look for us, because if it is, that's not terrible,
Right.
I mean, the worst thing that happened around here, I mean, Crozier just went under.
I thought someone saved it.
It's like they keep getting 30-day extensions. But they're the number one employer in Delaware County.
I didn't know that.
So in order, that's a pay attention to, that they're the number one, I've read they're the number one employer in Delaware County. So if that's something that could hurt our local market if they don't find someone to buy that out.
They expect insurance costs to go up again too, if the tariffs stay in place. I just had a long conversation with my managing director about that, with, obviously the cost to rebuild these homes is gonna be much, much higher if,
Mhm.
all the materials are that much higher, right? Like,
Yeah.
it sucks because I was just saying like 6 months ago how it's almost like the rates have finally flattened out, and now here we are with these tariffs again. It's like, geez.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of insurance right now. Like, you know, every building is super expensive
Yep.
to insure right now. But again, like the way I look at it is if you could buy a profitable building with these insurance rates and these interest rates and this market, it's going to look a lot better in the future.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just patient and you wait for the rates to come down and, you know, everybody's playing the long game, man. Like,
Right.
you know,
And insurance isn't bad here compared to Florida, Texas. It's
oh,
always-
yeah.
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 Well, any of the places with high cat areas are gonna.
Yeah.
go through
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, buddy.
Question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So Girish here again.
Yeah.
So I'm looking like we have this apartment complex in Media where I live, right?
Okay.
So they have been like listing 2 bedroom with 1 bathroom and 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom apartment units,
Yeah.
and they're putting for 200K or 250K, right? Let's say you have right now there's one active listing for 210K, right? For example, it's a 2 bed, 1 bath, and you can get rent for like $1,900. So for this kind of deal, how do you want to analyze?
So
Like if you
it's a
have to analyze,
condo building and
it's a
they're
condo, and they have like around $350 or something per month condo fee.
condo fee. I mean,
Yeah,
what's your like principal interest taxes, insurance, and condo fee add up to? Probably like
depends on how much down payment you do, right?
1,700 a
And
month.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd also check with the condo to make sure they're not maxed out on rental licenses
Mhm.
because a lot of condos have like limits on how many rentals they'll allow in the building. And
Mm,
running into a lot of those. Make sure it's not close because if you go like a few months where you lapse on your renewing your rental and they hit the limit, you know, you can lose that ability. So just check into
got it.
those things. Also check the capital reserves on the condo because a lot of these
Mm.
condos didn't put enough reserves away for decades and now they're requiring a
Um,
ton of
like
work
special
and
assessments. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like,
And
yeah.
like there's the building right here in Swarthmore, they're like it's like they're hitting people like the one bedrooms they're hitting people with like $5,000 a year for 4 years for capital
Oh,
improvement.
wow.
You're a
Yeah,
landlord, there's your profit, like gone.
screwed. Yeah,
You're in the
right, right. And
negative.
more lot of deferred maintenance, right? They
Yep.
defer it, and then you end up buying the property. So right now, to your answer question on the PT, it's coming up to like 1850 per month with
Yeah,
with yeah.
I can't see how it's profitable. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
That's the tough part,
But
man. You're evaluating a lot
yeah,
of these deals and you're just like, what? Like, how am I supposed to make money?
yeah. Maybe I'll talk to you offline. I guess that's where I need help. Yeah. At least.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Reach
Yes.
out,
Yes.
shoot me an email with like the details, and I can tell you, you know, my thoughts on it.
Sounds good. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, man. I'm gonna shut the Zoom down. Thanks for coming.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yep.